In this lecture, we will locate and identify the muscles responsible for eye movement. Did you know that there are 6 individual muscles responsible for moving each of your eyes? Well, we'll check them out in this lecture, including the rectus muscles and the oblique muscles. So let's get started. Your eyes, that is, their position and movement, are integral parts of your facial expressions and your nonverbal communication. As you all know, the eyes can speak volumes. Now there's a group of 6 small muscles that are at work here. Now just a note here, you have 2 eyes, so obviously all of these muscles are paired. So we have the extrinsic, now that just means on the outside of the eye, that is, muscles that are also referred to as the extra-ocular. Remember that word ocular means pertaining to the eye, or the oculomotor muscles, or in other words muscles that move the eyes. Now 5 of the 6 oculomotor muscles originate on the sphenoid bone around the optic canal, and we'll see that shortly. All of the oculomotor muscles insert on the eyeball itself, and their collective action is to move the eyeballs. Now I put the oculomotor muscles into 2 groups. There are 4 rectus muscles, and there are 2 oblique muscles. Now to keep you oriented, I'll point out a few landmarks, most of with which you are already familiar. Here is a portion of the frontal bone. Now remember that the frontal bone forms part of the superior aspect of the eye socket. You see the nasal bone here, the maxilla here forms a portion of the lower aspect of the eye socket. And by the way, this little structure here is called the trochlea, or the trochlear ligament, and it suspends the superior oblique muscle in the eye socket. Now we've already mentioned that 5 of the 6 oculomotor muscles have their origins on the sphenoid bone. So you can see how those muscles diverge from a common point. So here is your sphenoid bone. Now this large yellow structure here represents the optic nerve. And this opening in the sphenoid bone is called the optic canal, and this is where the optic nerve leaves the eye socket on its way to the brain. So let's look at the oculomotor muscles proper. We have the rectus muscles. There are 4 rectus muscles, and they are the superior rectus, the medial rectus, the inferior rectus, and the lateral rectus. Now the letters S, M, I, and L are just my designations for this illustration. So if this is your midline here, then we're looking at your left eye in this illustration. So here we see the superior rectus at the top. That's the superior aspect of your eye. And its action is to cause the eyes to look up. The medial rectus, that's nearest the midline, and its action is to cause the eyes to look medially or inward towards the nose, like when you cross your eyes. The inferior rectus, that's at the bottom, or the inferior aspect of the eye, its action is to cause the eyes to look downward. And the lateral rectus, that's on the outer surface, away from the midline, and its action is to cause the eyes to look to the side or laterally. Now as you can see, when this eye turns laterally, the other eye turns medially. Now this is quite a common phenomenon in spite of the fact that all of these muscles are voluntary and contract independently of one another. So all of us should very easily be able to do this, although I've never known anyone who could. Now if we turn to the right, then we can see the rectus muscles from the lateral aspect. So you have the superior rectus here, the medial rectus is tucked away back here, the inferior rectus here, and the lateral rectus here. Now in this illustration you can see how these 4 muscles diverge from the back of the socket. Now if we go back to the frontal view of the left eye, we have the 2 oblique muscles. They are the superior oblique and the inferior oblique. Now from their names you should easily be able to locate them on this illustration. So the superior oblique here acts to roll the eyes up and laterally. The inferior oblique here acts to roll the eyes down and laterally. So as you can see here, the movements due to the oblique muscles are a bit more complex than the up, down, left, right of the rectus muscles. And again, the oblique muscles of each eye, although voluntary and independent, will work in concert such that you roll both eyes together and in the same direction, rather than roll only one eye at a time. Now most of us cannot do that, but chameleons certainly can. So looking once again at the lateral aspect of the left eye, we see the superior oblique here and the inferior oblique here. One final look at the eye socket from the anterior aspect with the eyeball removed, or at least transparent anyway. So this is the optic nerve. And here we see superior rectus, medial rectus, inferior rectus, and lateral rectus. And then we have the superior oblique here and the inferior oblique right here. In the next lecture, we will locate and identify the anterior muscles of the neck. So I'll see you shortly.